you
Okay.
great, Coach. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show, where this week we're really excited to start our series, Coaches Cutups. And this week we have the offensive coordinator at Tempe High School, Matt Pinnick, on the show. Super excited to have Coach join us, and really excited to start this. I kind of had this idea to have coaches. I know most coaches kind of put things together, cut up style, and just gauge their efficiency of a concept and how much they go through some stuff. So, Coach is going to talk to us about some stuff. And before we get into that, Coach, I just want to say you guys have really done an incredible job at Tempe High School. And as a guy that's a fourth generation Arizonans, my daughters are fifth generation Arizonans, it's always really exciting for me to see some of the older high schools do well. And please don't hold this against me, but I was a Charger. I told Coach Freeman this when I had him on. I was a McClintock Charger. I had my entire family was McClintock Chargers. My dad was an All-Stater. My uncle was actually the head coach at McClintock from 2007 to 2010 and has taught there 30 something years. But I always loved seeing, like, it was really cool to see Mesa High do well. Mountain View's Coach Litton's had them on the rebound. I love seeing some of those classic programs rebuilding and doing great things. Kudos to you guys, and excited to have you on the show. And before we dive into it, though, I just want to take 1 second to remind everybody the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show is brought to you by School Funder. School Funder, the only online fundraising company in America that lets you keep all of the money your team raises. You would never willingly give away 20% of the wins your team earns. So why do you give away 20% of the proceeds they bring in their fundraising? So I would encourage you to call the guys at School Funder. Let them know the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show sent you, as it'll help the show. That's SCHOOLFUNDR.org. Every single coach I've talked to that end up working with School Funder all had great things to say, and they really do a wonderful job, and it's a good product. So give them a call, please, and it'll, like I said, it'll help the show. And while you're helping the show, take a second, please like and subscribe. We're trying to reach more coaches, and the more subscriptions we have, the more coaches we can reach. It's absolutely free. There is no cost affiliated with it. We're just trying to reach as many coaches. I know if you've been in Arizona for any length of time, the teacher shortage is bad. And from what I gather, there's a bit, young coaches are not really entering the profession maybe as they used to. So this whole thing is to get resources out there to coaches and hopefully help them, like many coaches helped me when I was coming up in the coaching game and all that, Coach. Coach, I kind of got to know you a little bit. I've enjoyed following you on Twitter. I always love your insight on stuff, and I thought that you would be a great guest. So before we get into the topic, though, tell me, this is honestly my favorite part of the show is hearing everybody's football story. So tell me a little bit about your football story.
Sure. And once again, thank you for the praise for what we're doing over at Tempe, and I like it, especially when your take about the old traditional schools, keeping them relevant. I went to Peoria High School, so seeing them come back from where they've been kind of in the doldrums, and now they're relevant again is a good thing too. Um, my football story: I was born and raised in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, football country. Um, the Massillon, Canton area, a little small town called Orville. We moved out here in junior high, moved out to Peoria, and ended up graduating from Peoria High School. I was on the last title team out of Peoria in 1994. Played a little semi-pro ball. Went to Scottsdale Community College out of high school, and then played semi-pro ball for a while. And then as the injuries started mounting, I started looking into coaching and reached out to a buddy of mine and asked him, "How do you get into coaching? Like, you've been coaching. What do you do?" And he said, he sent me to the AIA website and said, "Just go to one of these ads and see." And so there was an ad for a JV wide receiver coach at North Canyon High School. I didn't know anything about North Canyon High School. I didn't know the coaches. I just answered. I sent the application in, and they wanted to interview me, and it turned out to be Jeff Bowen and his staff at North Canyon. Yeah, so my first job was a JV wide receiver coach on a wing T team, so you know how much how much they cared about how much I knew. So I didn't know a thing about the wing T. I came from an I formation team, And so I would bring my entire playbook with me to practice because I wanted to be on point with doing things exactly how they wanted it done. So when a kid would ask me something, I'd say, hold on. And I'd flip through the playbook. Yes, that's right. Yeah, you got to block the safety on this one. And I stayed with Jeff Bowen throughout his time at North Canyon. When he moved to Westview, I went to Westview with him. Eventually became his defensive coordinator. And so we had some really good years at Westview. And then when Randy Gross left to go to his alma mater, he reached out to me about being his defensive coordinator at Trevor. And as tough as it was to leave Westview because we had things going. I love a challenge, and so I wanted to see Trevor Brown do well. I left and went to Trevor Brown, spent 3 seasons with him, and our last season we were 7-3 and in the playoffs. And so after that, I went back to alma mater. I got an opportunity to go coach at Peoria when Doug Clapp was still there. So I eventually became his defensive coordinator. We lost in the second round of the playoffs to Liberty. I'm sorry, to Arcadia. And then I stayed on when Will Babb became the head coach at Peoria for a year before leaving to go to Goldwater when my old D line coach became the head coach. Rich Metcalf became the head coach at Goldwater. And Rich asked me to come run the offense, which I had never done. I was wanted to, but almost every head coach back then was calling the offense. So if you wanted to move up, you had to move sides. So I got my first opportunity to call the offense, and I really haven't looked back since. I spent 3 years there. Eventually moving on to Mountain Ridge. After that, I met Jason Black through Twitter. He reached out to me on Twitter and said, "I need an OC." And so I left Mountain Ridge and became his OC. We went 8-2, won the region, went to the playoffs. I left there to go to Kellis because it's closer to my house. I live on the west side. Spent a couple years at Kellis before, and this is my big story on Twitter. Got diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And so I put it off from 2019 to 2022. I did any kind of treatment that I could do that didn't take me off the field. I would do that, even if it was impacting my health. And it got to the point where they finally called me in the spring of 2022 and said, "You're either going to get a transplant or you're going to hospice. This is it." And so that kind of woke me up. And I finally took the season off, 2022, from coaching football and just focused on my health. I got a heart transplant. I got a kidney transplant. And from my hospital bed, I was talking to Coach Freeman. We'd never coached together, but we had a lot of mutual friends, and he reached out to me about potentially joining staff at Tempe. So from my hospital bed, I committed to being the OC over at Tempe. And then once I got out, I went and saw the guys at Kellis, but I took over the job at Tempe and sort of haven't looked back. So that's basically my football story.
That is wild, Coach. That is incredible. I hadn't seen that on Twitter, so I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it, and I can to relate somewhat to it. I don't know if you know I was a few pounds ago, but in 2021 I had a heart attack during a game, and
No.
I was 100%. The only reason I'm here is because of the Lord. Because it hurt, but I was just going to keep coaching because I'm a dumb football coach. And we had two young assistants. They got kicked. We had two penalties, two 15-yard penalties, because the official ran into two assistants running down the sideline. So after the second unsportsmanlike, as the head coach, I get tossed. I'm sweating really, really bad. I'm like, maybe I need to go to the hospital. And I go in, and my wife, who is a good person, we get there and like, I'm fine, and I think I'm gonna go home. And she doesn't typically do this, but she MF'd me pretty good, and said, "No, you're getting back in there." And anyhow, my heart was beating 240 beats a minute, and if I had not
Wow.
checked in, I would have passed away that night. Oh, anyhow, that's thank you for
Well,
sharing
as
that
coaches,
story.
we're stubborn to a fault. We're always forward thinking, and we'll be okay. We'll be okay. And I was that way. I put it up. I got dragged out of my house in an ambulance. I went through so much, and I still wouldn't stop coaching, even though they were telling me like, "You got to slow down. You got to get a handle on this." And I go, "Just there's got to be some pills you can give me. I got 7-on-7 Thursday night. I need to be back out there." to the point to to my own detriment until finally reality hit me in the face. Like, wait a minute, I got two young daughters. When I got diagnosed, I was 42, and so I wasn't ready to check out. I think that's when it finally went. Okay, football's gonna have to wait. It's gonna have to wait. So sometimes as coaches, that's what it takes is reality hitting you in the face because we're always forward thinking, we're always positive thinking, and we'll figure it'll just work itself out. You'll be fine, but sometimes it's not.
That's what it took for me. The guy was like, "You were going to die," and I've lost 30, 40 pounds now. Got a little,
Good.
got a little
Congrats.
stints in, but anyhow. So, Coach, moving on, I'm looking forward to hearing the topic. And when you had kind of informed me, it sounded like you were going to talk about putting players in the best position to succeed, and I couldn't help but think, what a perfect topic to cover because I have great respect for all. There's so many good coaches in Arizona, but I have a
Hmm.
little bit. I don't want to say more respect, but I really value the guys that are at schools sometimes that always haven't had a lot of success or have had a down period and have had to rebuild because if I'm being fair, I think that is a little bit more difficult. I think you've been at Goldwater when they obviously. I think Coach Metcalf did a fine job, but you've been at a ton of places and helped that process rebuilding. And I think one of
Hmm.
those things is sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong here, coaches that have a lot of, or places with a lot of talent go, oh, this kid just can't do this. And I think at some of the other schools, the coach is more inclined to find a way to work to what he can do. And I'm excited to hear about this, Coach. So if you don't mind, share your screen. I'll shut up and I'll ask questions maybe every now and again, but I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, as I lead into that, I think what kind of changed my mindset was I read a book by Bobby Knight called "The Power of Negative Thinking."
I love that book.
It's a great book, and what really influenced me was, you know, sometimes you need to focus on your strengths while you work on your weaknesses, and a lot of times you want to try to neutralize your negatives. You want to focus on those to bring them up to where your strengths are. But in the meantime, your strengths are suffering. So when I read that book, I kind of had this mentality of we're gonna have kids that aren't complete players. At Tempe, we don't have a feeder. We don't have a designated feeder team. We don't have a tackle junior high team. So we get kids that show up and want to play football, and we get transfers because people see our style of play and as attractive to parents and kids, the 7-on-7 type kids. So we get kids that want to show what they can do, but they don't always know how to do it. So as I share the screen, that's kind of the challenge that we found ourselves at Tempe. Um, we get these kids that show up that either they're going to miss games because they're a transfer or they're just raw to the sport. So how do we find what they can do and let them do that while we still develop their other skills? So my first year we had some really big receivers. Um, the first couple of clips I'm gonna show you are from his name is Tavy Williams. He was a senior when I got there. His junior year he broke his leg, so we didn't get to work with him much in the off season. Um, he's one of those kids that every coach knows that he drops the easy passes, right? And he dropped a lot of the difficult ones too. He wasn't always great at that, but the one thing he was great at was jump balls. So we would throw him a jump ball once a quarter. We try to throw him a jump ball, whether he got it or not. It didn't really matter. If we could get 1-on-one, we would just throw him a jump ball. I think we only catch a little bit of this one on film, but this is down in Yuma, 1st and 10. Throw it up, go get it. He throw it up, go get it. Okay, so we know he can do that. This is same game. It might have been the next play. I don't. I think we just went right back to it. Throw it up, single coverage. We'll take it. Good. Now we're down to 15. Now we're just trying to build him up until we can find something more that he can do. Same thing here. A lot of times, though, even now, if we get looks like this, and I think you and I have had this discussion on Twitter. You guys count the box to see where you can find a fit in the run game, and we look at it like, okay, we're in Trey, and they move the safety over the tight end. It's 1-on-1, and they're pressing on the back on our X. We're throwing. Forget the run. I'm not worried about it. We're throwing it up. That's kind of the look we get here. Whatever we had called, we checked out of it. and just let him go get it.
He is
And
going up to
and
get
so,
it
like I
for
said,
sure.
what's that?
He's definitely going up to get it. He's definitely a high point in that football.
Right, right. And he had a knack for it, right? So we didn't try to force what he can't. We can't use him. Let him play defense. He can't catch slam. He doesn't run a good curl route. His routes are not very good. He does this thing well, so we're gonna let him do that thing well. And now he's playing JUCO ball for Papago Pumas. The next thing I'm gonna show you, Cameron Jackson. So when I got to Tempe, Cameron Jackson was a hand in the dirt tight end and a defensive end, and he was 6'5", 190, 6'5", 200 pounds. And I said, nah, he's gonna be an outside receiver for us. We'll work with him. And so when we did move him outside, the first thing he said was, throw me a go ball. He wanted the same thing we were doing with Tavy. Just throw me a go ball. And I'm like, you don't have go ball speed. Like everybody plays you in cover three, and you can't beat the coverage. So let's just throw to you short. Learn how to run through people. You're big, and then we'll work on your long ball. So this is Cameron with just a simple, just a bubble, and he breaks a tackle. I mean, he's long, runs through a tackle, another stiff arm, run through a tackle, and I can see him kind of putting those long strides to work. Okay, and then so after the first time we hit something like that with him, then the next time now he's starting to get it. Like, okay, people have problems tackling me, so he break a tackle, run through an arm tackle, and I just hit those strides, use those strides, go make a play.
He looked pretty
I think a
explosive
lot of
there,
these,
coach.
yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of times, a lot of these young guys think, in order to get the big pass plays, you got to throw me a long ball. But that was a negative yard pass for an 82-yard touchdown. So you got to get in their head, just trust the process, and that's what we told them a lot. Trust the process. So now that his confidence is up a little bit, now we can, and we've been working with him on, okay, this is how you time your jump. This is how you play the ball and things like that. Now he gets what he wants. Now you're more of a complete wide receiver. I don't condone spinning the ball, but
He's excited. I mean, I think sometimes the officials gotta let the kids be excited. It is a game we're playing.
and yeah, and it all depends on the crew you get a lot of times, but let kids have fun. So the next guy, and everybody has a guy like this too. Track guy, he played DB his junior year. He missed all the summer and spring because he was in Texas with his family. So he comes back for fall practice and he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know any of the offense, but he's fast. So what do you do with those fast guys, coach? You just hand them the ball until you can figure out the offense. So this is Jamichael Keaton, and so we said we'll run you on jet sweep. You're really fast, and we'll let you figure out the offense in pieces, just bite-sized pieces, and in the meanwhile help us out. So that's what he did first couple of games. Just get outside and run as fast as you can.
Which I absolutely love that because you're right. There always seems to be, we've always had one kid, and sometimes it's a really fast kid, or sometimes it's a kid, you're like, this kid's really got some skills, but everybody is on, they're speaking Mandarin because he's coming in and he doesn't know the language or any of that stuff, and finding a way to, but you're like, as a coach, you're like, this kid's talented. What can we do to get him involved? And what you said there is really, coaches out there that are listening, is really, he said bite-sized pieces. So coach kind of worked him into bite-sized pieces, and as you saw in that jet sweep, kid can fly.
Yeah, he can fly. So we kind of took it in stages. So he goes from just running jet sweep. Now he's understanding a little bit of the offensive spacing. And so we saw a team that would play, they would put their middle linebacker manned up on the running back. Well, we're going to just put you in the backfield and just run down the bottom of the numbers. See the bottom of the numbers? Yeah, run down those. We'll throw you the ball. And so now he just runs down the bottom of the numbers. The linebacker, they end up blitzing him anyway. Go score. And we get a 60-yard touchdown out of it. And that wasn't anything complicated. You know, it's just taking advantage of them and what his skills are. And then by the end, now he understands the offense, he understands spacing, and now we can just throw him a bubble route. And now he's moving around in space. He's seeing the creases, he's seeing the field, and he's like a different guy.
Which
But
let
if
me
you
ask you,
don't,
because I've different guys
sure,
have ways to teach this. How do you guys teach the bubble?
we're aiming for the bottom of the numbers. our offense is we really try to spread the field. We try to make you just by alignment. A lot of people run 2 by 2. That's nothing new. But when I watch people that run 2 by 2, their slots are only 3 to 4 yards away from the tackle, and so the linebackers never have to move. They can play run, they can play pass. They're in great position. We line up at the bottom of the hashes. We stretch the entire field, and our outside guys are bottom of the numbers. So you got to decide if you're going to stay in the box. Cool, we'll just keep throwing bubble and our smoke routes. But once you walk out, well, now we'll run the ball. So there's games where we throw it 45, 46 times. There's games where we run it 35 times. So it all depends on you. But we want to aim for the bottom of the numbers. Um, we run our smoke routes. We run our smoke and goes. We want to just work away from the defender. If it's a linebacker, we work our smoke towards the sideline. If it's somebody stacked over the top, then we work a little bit back up the field, sort of like that. Just working to space. This okay. So this is last year. We got a transfer by the name of Savion McCrimmon. Savion McCrimmon is now he's at Ottawa, and he had to miss the first 5 games. But he's a kid that he was a pretty polished receiver. I think he had 500 yards over at Westwood before he came to us. So it was just a matter of us finding how to slot him into our offense with stuff that he was comfortable already doing. And a lot of his stuff was underneath routes, throwing drags. Uh, he's an ankle breaker. We haven't had a lot of those. You throw him the ball in space, and he'll just make everybody miss. This is the first play of the game against Bourget. I think it's his third game with us, and he goes 70 untouched. So those kind of guys, I mean, yeah, you could draw up whatever you want. He was polished enough that I could talk football speak to him. I could tell him, hey, when you break on that post route, come under the safety. Anything I want to say, he understood it because he was ready. We don't always get ready made guys like that. This is our scrimmage against Benson. Again, just throwing the ball and let him operate in space, and guys are just flying all over the place. And again, that's just kind of take advantage of what your guys do best. Um, I know a lot of coaches talk about that, but when I watch film, I don't always see it. Just identifying what they do best and let them go do that thing. You see guys running into each other. He was a special talent, and like I said, he's still playing great underneath. I knew if I just got him the ball short, he would go do what he does. He was all city in those 5 games, first team all region in 3 spots. So that's an anomaly for us. We usually don't get polished kids like that.
All
This is
city in
another
Tempe
homegrown
is a
kid.
big deal. There's some good football players in Tempe, no question.
And that was one of my motivating factors about going there. I know they have talent. I know they have guys. Um, Prior to coming to Tempe, I knew they were 1-27, and like I said, I was at Kellis, and the year before Tempe had gone 1-9. And when I told people I was going to Tempe to be the OC, a lot of my coaching colleagues were like, "Why? Why would you go there? You're at and Kellis. I think we were 6-4, but we had a lot coming back. They ended up going 9-1 the next season, but I love not only do I love a challenge, I told myself I won't be going 1-9. Like that bar is pretty low. So how bad do I have to be to go 1-9 again? Like if I go 2-8, I doubled our win total. We ended up going 5-5. So I had a good idea that would happen. The guy on this piece of footage is Arthur Murphy, and Arthur Murphy, when I got there, was a left tackle. And the first day of spring ball, I said, "Does anybody? We have any tight ends?" And he raised his hand. I didn't know him. I saw some of the other coaches snickered because he was a lineman, but he turned out to be really good. He was all state, honorable mention, all Arizona. His senior year, he had 16 touchdowns, but he's a guy that's just really hard to tackle. He's built like a dishwasher. So we would same thing. We would throw him the ball short, and people didn't really want to tackle him. He would just run through everything. Even though he was 230, just get him out of space and operate. He's a big athlete. Same thing here. Just throw him short, little smoke pass. Whenever we get a look like this out of trips where we see the safety over the top, but he's back at like 10 or 12, then we'll just throw him the ball right now and let him operate.
Coach, how did you determine you were throwing to number two there? Because it looked like the corner, unless I'm mistaken, the corner was off too a little bit. Is there a
Corner
signal?
was off. I think it was earlier in this drive when we gave the same formation. We saw that the corner was a little more tighter. So this one we actually called the huddle. We didn't check this one.
Okay.
We call this one a huddle. So we knew this guy was going to bail, so we would just throw the number two, and we knew we'd get up on him. Not a great block, but he just runs through everything and he scored. And you end up looking like a great coach, but that's pretty simple for us. Same thing here. This is against Gilbert Christian, and you see the safety's off. He's creeping, but he's still too far away. So just get the big guy the ball in space right now. Safety's unblocked, but he missed, and then he just runs through everybody else.
He is a load.
He's low. I mean, I thought he should have been first team All Arizona. He didn't get it, but he got first team All State, All City. He's also playing at Ottawa now. And the funny thing is, when people see him out in space now, in situations like this, they think either he's out there to block for the guy behind him, or we're going to throw some kind of short pass to him and let him work. So a lot of times they just let him roam down the field by himself,
But set it up and hit the deep shot there.
hit the deep shot, and now they don't really know what's coming. Um, yeah, just putting your guys in position to be successmal. Let me see who this is. This is okay. So this is now we're in this season, and again got another transfer. This is Jaden Hart. Came over from Mesquite. He was actually a transfer that we had all year. And again, trying to find out what does he do well? What did you do well at your last school, and how does that translate to what we do? And what we noticed was he ran really good smash routes. His corner routes, he does a good job of giving that body lean on the inside to pull the safety away, and they would all bite. So we let him do that thing. I mean, it doesn't get more open than that. He's got a knack for it. So while he learns the offense, we'll make sure we always scheme that in out of different formations, motions, things like that. So again, here more of a compressed set, but same pattern. Work to the back pylon and score.
I love those sets, coach, because you're just creating space in different areas. Now you got them all condensed. You're creating that space out there where the corner route's going to be.
You see the plan. You see the plan. Yeah, and kind of cross the routes up and give ourselves some room to work, and then we tell the quarterback just put it out there where either we get it or it's incomplete. It's a pretty safe pass as far as that goes. Uh, Same thing here. We're running out of Trey now. He gives a little body lean and then back outside open. And he's only junior, so he comes back next year. And this was one of the rare guys that I've had that's come back. Normally, 2023 we lost all our receivers. They all graduated. The year after, they all graduated except for Mark Jackson, number two. This is our 2025 All City wide receiver. So he's a little slot guy. To his own detriment, he's too physical for his size. So he ended up missing the first two games because he blew somebody up in Oklahoma drill and hurt himself. So when we got him back, this is the first week we got him back for Flagstaff, and he's more of a slant guy, dig guy. He can also go deep if the situation's right. But he's a guy that's kind of a crafty receiver, like a T.Y. Hilton type. He kind of just finds holes in the defense. So Mark Jackson was our outside receiver, and you can see a kind of a skinny post. He runs through tackles. Like I said, he's very physical, but to his own detriment because he would look like he went through a war at the end of every game. But this is another thing that we talk about a lot at Tempe too. Like when we see teams try to scheme away, if Mark Mark always lines up here, outside receiver. So we would see different looks where they'd press him and roll the safety over the top and make sure that the linebacker got hands on him. Well, we don't really allow that. Well, we have different calls that can put him in any four of these positions. They can put any receiver in any other position in our offense, so that you can't really scheme where they are. So now he's in the slot on the left, and we run play action and hit him on an H post, and he does a great job tracking the ball for a touchdown. A similar thing here. We're empty. We're down against Greenway. Probably one of our worst games of the year. But quarterback uncorks one, and this is a little concept we run where we try to run off number two, or we run off the safety with number two, and then come back up the seam with number one.
That's a heck of a ball, too. I know you
Yeah, that
guys
was
had a
so.
quarterback. I think
So
it was
I was blessed to have Saul Mendez, as this process took place. I got him as a sophomore and had him for the last 3 years. and he was a gunslinger for sure. And I think it was the last set of clips. So this is a young receiver we got from. He actually transferred from Mount Point, but he didn't play football there. He played basketball. So again, that presents its own challenge because now you're teaching them the game. You're teaching them, just teaching them always to line up, put your inside leg up, and when are you off the ball? When are you on the ball? Those are the things that I think people forget about when you're working with such raw guys. Um, but you could tell Nemo Calvin was a talented athlete. I mean, he's just an athlete. So we knew if we could just get him the ball and give him some opportunities, he would be good. But finding out what those things were that he does well was a challenge. Right now, he's the inside slot, and we're down against I think this is against La Jolla, and we just beat him inside on a seam route. It's just a simple combination we call out. Number one runs a go, two runs out, and three. If there is a three on that side, he just has a seam route, just beat the safety inside. And then you can see kind of he runs like a basketball kid that's catching his first football. But again, athlete and where we are, we got to develop those kind of guys.
Heck of a
So
throw
eventually
too.
we start to
He
find out
had
what
a
he could
guy
do.
bearing
And
down on him.
what's that, coach?
I said that was a heck of a throw. He had a guy bearing down on him right as he made that. He looked
Yeah,
that right
I'm
through.
Saul made my job very easy. Saul made my job very easy because he understood the offense. He understood timing, where the ball needed to go, and he made me look really really good. I mean, he's not going to be easily replaced. He was actually, believe it or not, the first pocket passer I've had. When I was at Goldwater, I had Cooper Ray, and he was dual threat. When I was at Goldwater, or I'm sorry, when I was at Veritas, I had Gage Lentz. He was dual threat. So Saul had to kind of change how we did things. But for me, I also used to coach youth football for a time, just because I was a coaching nut and I couldn't get enough. So I was coaching youth football at the same time I was coaching high school football. So while I was coaching Veritas, I was also coaching the junior Liberty Lions. And so I was coaching Navi Bruzon on Saturdays and then coaching my guys on Fridays. And so Navi was smart enough that all I had to do, I would just flip the formations from the night before and we would run the offense. So I've been kind of blessed in that regard.
That's pretty cool, coach.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because when I went to coach Navi Brazil, I didn't know who he was, and I met his dad, and his dad said he had had a bad Pop Warner experience, and he didn't. They had told him he was a running back, and he wanted me to take a look at him and see if he was a running back, cool, but he thinks he's a quarterback. And I watched him for 15 minutes and said, "No, he's a quarterback. We can work with him." And Navi turned out to be a monster. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, right. So this is we found out that what Nemo was really good at was double moves, and one of our best guys is double moves. So we started running out and ups with Nemo, and everyone would bite on it because he's got a knack for it. Like I said, finding out what they do best and then doing that thing over and over while they still learn the rest of the scheme. Again, great ball by Saul, to be honest. Same game. We switch it up a little bit, switch up the formation a little bit, and go right back to the out and up. I ain't told him he could have scored, but he wanted to get cute and do all this extra stuff. I guess I'll take it. But
That's still a
again,
big play.
finding what they can do. And then as now we're later in the season and he knows more of the offense. Now he's more comfortable. We moved him to X, and I think that's a better situation for him. I said he's good at double moves, and he is. So we had him on a go route. He sells an inside move like he's running a post. And for a guy that didn't wasn't with us during the summer, we didn't get him until we went to fall camp. He ended up leading us in receiving, and he's only a junior. I think we have one last clip. Yeah, one last clip of Nemo again. I told you he's the outside receiver normally, but just how they were kind of playing him, we switched. We made a call which makes Mark go outside. Nemo comes to the other side. So unless they have a plan for how they want to handle that when those guys switch, then we just keep trying to scheme our guys back open. We don't let them take anything away. So they bit because they thought it was the same smoke, like we talked about earlier. Um, since this guy, we know this outside defender, this flat defender is responsible for number two. We work our smoke route with our back to the sideline, and that draws the corner up, which means now the quarterback knows hit that go route. Now I got on him because if I told him if he just kept running, he scores. I don't know why you cut back under someone behind you, but this kid's like I said, he runs like a basketball kid that you just threw the ball to. He's looking for everybody to juke.
Well, Coach, when you said the topic, I was really, really excited because I think that's something that you've talked about a little bit. Coaches do talk about that a lot, but really being able to find out what your kids can do and putting them in the best position possible to succeed is really, really valuable information. So I thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed that a great deal. And the
Yes, sir.
Buffaloes, I know, are in good hands. And like I said, I commend you guys. I've been really excited to see Tempe High back doing well, even though I was a McClintock Charger and many of my family were
We'll forgive you
Chargers
for
and
that.
all that. So, but seriously, Coach, thank you so much for being on the show. It was great to have you, and we wish you continued success with the Buffaloes. And please tell Coach Freeman I said hello as well.
Well, and thanks for having us. You're doing a great job with this podcast. And every time it pops up, I check it out. And just thanks for giving another platform for us coaches in Arizona.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate all of our great coaches in Arizona. And if you're interested in being on Cutup Corner, please hit me up at cody.collett, that's cody.collett, at prescottschools.com or at BG Gridiron Show on Twitter. So thanks again, Coach, and we'll see you next time for
Months.
another edition.
All right. Thanks, coach.